Across the galaxy, hundreds of civilizations lived under its power. Some had joined the Empire willingly. Others had been conquered long ago. Either way, the result was the same. The Empire controlled trade, technology, and military power across countless star systems.
Their fleets were massive.
Their ships were built from metals stronger than anything found on most planets. Their weapons could destroy moons. Their scientists believed they understood nearly every law of the universe. Because of this, the leaders of the Empire believed something very strongly. Nothing could surprise them anymore. At the center of imperial power was a massive structure called the Grand Star Station. It floated in deep space, surrounded by powerful defense fleets. From this station, the Imperial Council watched over the galaxy. One quiet day, deep space scanners detected something unusual. A signal. At first, the signal seemed weak and unimportant. Signals from young civilizations were common. Many species eventually discovered radio waves and began sending messages into space. Most of those civilizations were centuries away from serious space travel. But this signal was different. It was coming from a region of space that the Empire had rarely studied closely. The system contained a small yellow star and several planets. According to old records, one of those planets had developed primitive life. The planet was called Earth. Inside the Grand Star Station, several officers gathered around a large holographic display. Stars floated in the air like glowing dust. A technician spoke quietly. Signal confirmed. Origin: Planet Earth. An older officer crossed his arms and frowned.
Humans, he said.
A young species. Barely advanced. Another officer looked curious. But the signal pattern is unusual. The technician nodded.
Yes.
It repeats in complex sequences, almost like advanced communication. The room grew quiet. Advanced communication from a young civilization was unexpected. Still, no one believed humans could be a threat. The Imperial Council made a simple decision. Send a small scouting fleet to investigate. The mission was given to Commander Ral, a calm and experienced fleet officer. He had explored many systems before. Most missions like this ended the same way, the discovery of a primitive species still struggling with early technology. Commander Ral expected nothing different. Within days, his fleet left Imperial space. 3 sleek starships jumped into faster-than-light travel and disappeared into the darkness between stars. After several days of travel, the fleet finally arrived near the human star system. Commander Ral stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked at the large viewing screen. The yellow star burned calmly in the distance. Several planets moved slowly in their orbits. It looked ordinary. Scan the system, Ral ordered. Sensors activated across the fleet. Data began flowing across the screens. At first, everything seemed normal. Then one of the officers suddenly leaned forward. Commander, you should see this. Ral stepped closer to the display. Several small objects were orbiting Earth. They looked like simple satellites at first. But then the objects began moving. Not slowly like normal satellites. They changed direction instantly. One satellite suddenly stopped moving, then accelerated faster than any known engine could allow. Another object disappeared from the sensors for a moment, then reappeared thousands of kilometers away. The bridge became silent. Commander Ral stared at the screen. That must be a sensor error, one officer said quickly. But the technician shook his head. No error detected. Another satellite performed an even stranger movement. It rotated in place, then moved sideways through space, without using visible propulsion. Ral felt a small sense of unease. He had seen many technologies during his career, but nothing like this. Zoom closer, he ordered. The holographic display expanded. More objects appeared around Earth.
Hundreds of them.
Each one moved with incredible precision. They formed complex patterns in orbit, almost like a giant machine surrounding the planet. One of the younger officers spoke quietly. These satellites, they're not just observing space. Ral looked at him. What do you mean? The officer pointed at the data. They are constantly adjusting position, linking signals, sharing energy. He paused before finishing his thought. It looks like they are part of one massive network. Another technician added something even more surprising. Commander, the energy output from these satellites is extremely high. Raoul frowned. How high? The technician swallowed before answering. Higher than many Imperial military stations. For the first time since arriving, Commander Raoul felt genuine surprise. A young civilization should not have technology producing that level of energy. Something about Earth was very strange. Suddenly, an alarm sounded across the bridge. Commander, one of the satellites has locked onto our fleet. Raoul turned toward the screen. A single small object was now facing their ships. It looked harmless, just a piece of metal floating in space. But the sensors showed something alarming. A powerful scanning beam moved across the Imperial ships.
It was analyzing them, studying them, learning everything about them.
The officer at the console whispered nervously, Commander, I think they know we are here. Raoul stared at the silent planet in the distance. Humans were supposed to be a young and primitive species. Yet somehow their machines had already detected an Imperial fleet the moment it arrived. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Empire had encountered something completely unexpected. And this was only the beginning. Commander Raoul stood silently on the bridge of his flagship as the strange human satellite continued scanning the Imperial fleet. The small object looked simple, almost fragile, but the data appearing on the screens told a different story. The scanning beam moved across every ship, collecting information with incredible speed. Weapons systems, shield power, engine designs. It was studying everything. One of the officers looked nervous. Commander, the satellite is reading our entire fleet. Raoul remained calm, but he watched the screen carefully. How advanced is the scan? He asked. The technician answered quickly. Extremely advanced. It is analyzing systems faster than our own military scanners. That made several officers uneasy. The Empire had always believed its technology was superior to any young civilization. Yet this tiny human satellite was already proving that belief might be wrong. Should we destroy it? Another officer asked. Raoul shook his head.
No.
We are here to observe and make contact, not start a war. He turned toward the communication officer. Send a message to the planet. Within seconds, a powerful signal beam was directed toward Earth. The message was simple and clear. This is Commander Raoul of the Galactic Empire. We come in peace. Identify your government and prepare for diplomatic contact. For a moment, there was silence on the bridge. Then the communication console lit up. Commander, they responded. That surprised everyone. The signal came back almost instantly, as if the humans had been waiting for them. A calm human voice appeared through the speakers.
This is Earth Command.
I am Director Hale. Your message has been received. The officers looked at each other. The human voice sounded confident. Too confident for a species meeting the Empire for the first time. Director Hale continued speaking. Commander Raoul, we welcome peaceful communication. However, your ships are currently inside a restricted observation zone. Raoul raised an eyebrow. Restricted zone, he repeated quietly. The voice on the speaker remained calm.
Yes.
For safety reasons, all foreign vessels must remain at their current position. Do not move closer to Earth until diplomatic channels are fully established. Several officers on the bridge exchanged amused looks. A young civilization giving orders to the Galactic Empire sounded almost funny. One officer whispered, they must not understand who they are speaking to. Commander Raoul considered the message carefully. Technically, the humans had not threatened them. They had only asked the fleet to stay where it was. But the Empire was not used to receiving instructions from new civilizations. Raoul finally answered. Director Hale, we appreciate your response. However, we will approach your planet to begin formal contact. There was a short pause. Then the human voice returned. Commander Raoul, we strongly advise you not to do that. The tone remained polite, but there was a clear warning in the words. Raoul hesitated for a moment. But Imperial pride quickly pushed away his doubt. Advance the fleet, he ordered. The engines of the Imperial ships slowly activated. The fleet began moving closer to Earth. For several seconds, Nothing happened. Then suddenly, alarms exploded across the bridge. "Commander, our systems are failing." The lights flickered. Screens shut down. One by one, the control panels across the bridge went dark. Raoul grabbed the edge of the command console as the ship's engines suddenly powered off. "What is happening?" he demanded. The technician looked shocked. "I don't know. All systems are shutting down." Another officer checked the weapon controls. Weapons offline. Shields offline. Engines offline. The entire ship had suddenly become powerless. Across the fleet, the same thing was happening. 3 powerful Imperial warships now floated silently in space like empty metal shells. Commander Raoul stared at the dark screens. No attack had been detected. No weapons had been fired. Yet somehow, every system on every ship had stopped working at the same moment. The communications speakers suddenly activated again. Director Hale's calm voice returned. "Commander Raoul, we warned you." Raoul clenched his jaw but said nothing. "You entered a restricted zone," Hale continued. "For safety reasons, we temporarily disabled your ships." An officer whispered in disbelief. "Temporarily?" Hale continued speaking. "No permanent damage has been done. Your systems will restart in a few minutes." The bridge remained silent. The officers of the Galactic Empire were completely stunned. Never before had an enemy disabled Imperial warships so easily. And the humans had done it without firing a single shot. After a few seconds, the screens slowly began turning back on. Engines restarted. Weapon systems returned. Shields reactivated. Everything was working again. Commander Raoul looked at the system reports carefully. There were no signs of damage. Whatever the humans had done, it was precise and controlled. Almost like they had simply pressed a switch. The officer beside him spoke quietly. "Commander, if they can disable our fleet like this, imagine what their real weapons might do." Raoul said nothing. He looked once more at the small blue planet in the distance. The Empire had come expecting to meet a young, weak civilization. Instead, they had just witnessed something impossible. And deep inside, Commander Raoul realized something disturbing. Human technology might not just be advanced. It might be far beyond anything the Empire had ever seen. Far from the silent Imperial fleet drifting in space, life on Earth continued as normal. Cities were busy, lights covered the night side of the planet, and millions of people were completely unaware that 3 powerful alien warships had just been disabled above their world. Deep beneath the surface of Earth, however, things were very different. Inside a massive underground facility, the leaders of Earth were watching everything. Large holographic screens filled the control room. They showed the Imperial ships, their systems, and every signal moving between them. At the center of the room stood Director Hale, the leader of Earth Command. He watched the data carefully while several scientists worked around him. One of them, Dr. Owen, was responsible for the technology that had just stopped the Imperial fleet. Dr. Owen was not surprised by what had happened. He calmly studied the system reports on his screen. "The shutdown worked perfectly," he said. Director Hale nodded slowly. "How long until their ships fully restart?" "About 2 minutes," Owen replied. "Just as we programmed." Hale looked at the image of the alien fleet. 3 massive ships floated in space, each one many times larger than any human warship. Yet a simple signal from Earth had stopped them completely. That was exactly what humans had planned. Another officer stepped forward. "Director, the Empire is probably confused. They expected us to be primitive." Hale gave a small smile. "That is the advantage of being underestimated." Across the room, another screen displayed hundreds of human satellites orbiting Earth. These were not ordinary satellites. They formed a network called the Orbital Defense Grid. Each satellite contained powerful processors, energy systems, and communication devices. Working together, they created a giant technological shield around the planet. The system that disabled the Imperial ships was part of that network. It used a special signal designed to temporarily interrupt advanced electronics. Dr. Owen had spent years developing it, but that was only a small part of what humanity had created. A young engineer looked at the screens with excitement. "It's strange," he said. The Empire has ruled the galaxy for thousands of years, yet they never developed anything like this. Dr. Owen leaned back in his chair. That's because they follow safe science. The engineer looked confused. Safe science. Owen nodded. Most alien civilizations only develop technology that is predictable and stable. They avoid experiments that could fail or cause disasters. Director Hale added something important. Humans are different. Everyone in the room understood what that meant. Throughout history, humans had always experimented with dangerous ideas. Sometimes those experiments caused problems. Sometimes they failed completely. But sometimes they changed the world. Humans had tested theories that other species believed were impossible. They had experimented with strange forms of energy. They had built machines that could rewrite their own programming. They had even developed artificial intelligence systems that could improve themselves. Because of this, human technology had advanced very quickly, much faster than most civilizations expected. Dr. Owen stood up and walked toward a large holographic display showing the entire solar system. "Look at this," he said. The display zoomed out. It showed more than just satellites. There were hidden stations near the moon, defense platforms in deep space, observation posts far beyond the outer planets. The entire solar system had slowly been transformed into a giant defensive network. Every object had a purpose. Every system was connected. The Empire had only seen a tiny part of it. An officer asked the question that was on everyone's mind. "Do you think the Empire will attack?" Director Hale thought for a moment. "They might. Then why didn't we destroy their ships when they ignored our warning?" Hale answered calmly. "Because we are not trying to start a war." He pointed at the image of the Imperial fleet. "They are curious. That means they might still choose diplomacy." Dr. Owen smiled slightly. "And if they don't?" He tapped a button on the console. Another display appeared. This one showed a much larger machine hidden far from Earth. It was still under construction, but its size was incredible. The structure looked like a giant ring floating in space. Energy moved across its surface in glowing lines. The young engineer stared at it with wide eyes. "The gate," he whispered. Dr. Owen nodded. "Yes." The machine was humanity's most ambitious project. It was designed to control space itself. But it was still incomplete. Director Hale looked at the image quietly. "We hope we never need to use it," he said. Suddenly, a technician spoke from across the room. "Director, the Imperial fleet has fully restarted." The screen showed the alien ships powering up again. Weapons were active. Shields were online. Engines were running. Commander Raoul and his officers were once again in control of their ships. But now they knew something important. Humans were far more advanced than expected. Director Hale watched the fleet carefully. "This is the moment that will decide everything," he said. Dr. Owen crossed his arms. "The Empire will now choose one of two paths." "Peace," Hale said. "Or war," Owen finished. High above Earth, Commander Raoul stared at the blue planet again. He now understood something clearly. The civilization below him was not weak. And if the Empire made the wrong decision, they might discover that human technology was not just powerful. It might be something far beyond their imagination. Commander Raoul stood quietly on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the blue planet far away. Earth looked peaceful from space, but now he knew that the world below was hiding powerful technology. Only a short time ago, his fleet had been completely disabled without warning. No weapon had fired. No explosion had happened. Yet every system on their ships had stopped working. That had never happened to the Galactic Empire before. The officers on the bridge were still discussing it. "It must be some kind of advanced electronic weapon," one officer said. Another shook his head. "But our systems are designed to resist that kind of attack." A third officer looked worried. "Then maybe it's not an electronic weapon." Commander Raoul listened carefully, but said nothing. He was thinking about something else. The calm voice of the human leader, Director Hale. The warning had been polite, but it had also been clear. Do not approach Earth. The Empire had ignored that warning, and the humans had shown them exactly what they could do. Raoul finally spoke. "Prepare a report for the Imperial Council." "Yes, Commander." Within minutes, a powerful communication beam carried the report across deep space to the heart of the Empire. The message described everything: the strange satellites, the sudden system shut down, the warning from Earth. Far away, inside the massive Grand Star Station, the Imperial Council gathered to read the report. The leaders of the Empire were not used to hearing about surprises. For thousands of years, their fleets had been the strongest force in the galaxy. Young civilizations usually surrendered quickly once they saw Imperial ships. But the situation with Earth was different. Very different. One council member looked at the report with disbelief. A young species disabled an Imperial fleet? Another member shook his head. Impossible. There must be some mistake. But the data from Commander Raoul was clear. Every system failure had been recorded. Every signal had been analyzed. There was no mistake. Humans had done something the Empire did not understand. One of the older council members leaned forward. Perhaps this species has discovered a dangerous technology. Another member spoke coldly. Then we cannot allow them to keep it. The discussion continued for hours. Some leaders wanted peaceful contact. Others believed humanity was already too dangerous. Finally, the council reached a decision. If humans possessed powerful technology, the Empire needed to see it for themselves. And, if necessary, they would take control of it. The order was simple. Send a war fleet to the human system. Not 3 ships, not 10, but thousands. Within days, one of the largest Imperial fleets ever assembled began moving toward Earth. Massive warships left their stations across the Empire. Heavy cruisers, battle carriers, destroyers. Each ship was armed with weapons powerful enough to destroy cities and moons. The fleet gathered together like a giant storm moving through space. At the center of the formation was the flagship of Grand Admiral Varn, one of the most respected commanders in the Empire. When Varn received the mission orders, he studied them carefully. "Human civilization," he said slowly. One of his officers nodded. "Yes, Admiral." They disabled Commander Raoul's fleet. Varn looked interested rather than angry. That is impressive for such a young species. But the Council believes they could become dangerous. Varn stood and walked toward the viewing window. Outside, thousands of ships waited for his command. He spoke calmly. "Then we will observe their technology and test their defenses." Soon after, the fleet entered faster than light travel. The journey took several days. Finally, the massive armada appeared near the outer edge of the human solar system. Commander Raoul's small fleet was still there, watching the planet. When the war fleet arrived, the space around Earth suddenly filled with thousands of Imperial ships. The sky above the planet became crowded with metal giants. On Earth, alarms sounded across the global defense network. Inside the underground command center, Director Hale watched the screens carefully. The number of ships surprised even him. "That's not a fleet," one officer whispered. "That's an invasion." Dr. Owen looked at the data calmly. "They're trying to intimidate us." Hale nodded. "Or force us to surrender." He looked at the holographic map, showing the entire solar system. The Empire believed their fleet was unstoppable. But they had not seen everything yet. Hale gave a quiet order. "Activate the outer defense systems." Far away from Earth, hidden platforms in deep space suddenly came to life. Energy systems powered up. Sensors expanded across millions of kilometers. Dr. Owen watched the readings carefully. "The fleet is approaching the inner system." Hale folded his arms. "Let them come." Back near the Imperial ships, Grand Admiral Varn studied the human defenses. At first, everything seemed calm. Too calm. The human fleet was small compared to the Imperial Armada. But the strange satellites around Earth were still moving in perfect patterns. Varn gave the command. "Advance toward the planet." Thousands of ships slowly moved forward. Then something strange happened. Space itself began to ripple. One Imperial ship suddenly disappeared from its position. Moments later, it reappeared far away, millions of kilometers from the fleet. Another ship spun sideways as if gravity had suddenly changed direction. Confused voices filled the Imperial communication channels. "Navigation failure. Spatial distortion detected. Commander Raoul stared at the screens in shock. This isn't a weapon, he said quietly. It's something else. Grand Admiral Varn watched the chaos growing around his fleet. For the first time, he realized something troubling. The humans were not trying to destroy the Imperial Armada. They were controlling the battlefield itself. And the Empire had just entered a kind of war it had never experienced before. The Imperial fleet had faced many enemies in the past. They had fought strong civilizations, destroyed powerful armies, and conquered entire star systems. Their battles were usually loud and violent. Bright laser beams filled space. Missiles exploded like stars. Massive ships fired weapons powerful enough to destroy moons. But the battle near Earth was nothing like that. There were no explosions, no laser fire, no missiles flying through space. Instead, something far stranger was happening. Grand Admiral Varn stood on the bridge of his massive flagship, watching the situation unfold on the screens around him. Thousands of Imperial ships filled the area near the human system. But their perfect formation was beginning to fall apart. Report. Varn demanded. A navigation officer spoke quickly. Admiral, several ships are experiencing sudden spatial movement. What kind of movement? Uncontrolled movement, sir. Ships are being pushed or pulled in random directions. Another officer added more disturbing news. Some ships have been relocated several million kilometers away from the fleet. Varn frowned. Relocated? Without using engines? Yes, Admiral. The bridge fell silent. Ships simply did not move across space like that. At least they weren't supposed to. Commander Raoul's voice came through the communication channel. Admiral, we are seeing the same problem here. Our navigation systems are functioning normally, but space itself appears unstable. Varn crossed his arms. Explain. Raoul answered carefully. It feels like the humans are bending space around us. That idea sounded impossible, but the data said it was true. On another screen, several Imperial destroyers suddenly slowed down. Their engines were still running, but the ships barely moved forward. An engineer shouted in confusion. Our engines are producing full power, but our speed is almost zero. Varn looked at the report. Something was resisting their movement, almost like an invisible wall. Meanwhile, other ships were experiencing the opposite problem. One cruiser suddenly accelerated forward without warning. The crew struggled to control it as it raced through space. Navigation lost. Emergency thrusters failing. The ship finally stopped after drifting far away from the main fleet. Still, not a single human weapon had fired. Inside the underground command center on Earth, Director Hale watched the battle calmly. Large holographic screens showed the entire solar system. The Imperial fleet appeared as thousands of red lights moving across the map. Human defense systems surrounded them like an invisible web. Dr. Owens stood beside Hale, studying the data. The spatial control grid is working perfectly, he said. The young engineer next to him smiled. They probably expected lasers and missiles. Owen nodded. Most civilizations fight using energy weapons or explosives. He pointed at the display. But humans learned something important a long time ago. What's that? The engineer asked. Owen answered simply. The best way to win a battle is to control the environment. Instead of attacking the Imperial ships directly, human technology was manipulating space itself. Gravity fields were changing around the fleet. Small distortions in space were pushing ships away from each other. Some areas of space had become extremely dense, slowing ships almost to a stop. Other areas stretched space slightly, making ships drift far from their original positions. The entire battlefield had become a giant puzzle controlled by human machines. Director Hale watched carefully. Any damage to their ships? He asked. None, Owen said. That's good. Hale did not want unnecessary destruction. But the Empire needed to understand something important. Earth was not defenseless. Back near the Imperial fleet, frustration was growing. Grand Admiral Varn slammed his hand on the command console. This is ridiculous. Thousands of powerful warships were being pushed around like toys. And they still could not see a single human weapon. One officer spoke nervously. Admiral, We might be fighting technology far beyond our understanding. Varn looked at him sharply. The Empire has ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. There is no technology beyond our understanding. But even as he said the words, another report arrived. Admiral, we are detecting time irregularities. The bridge became quiet again. What kind of irregularities? Varn asked slowly. The officer looked pale. In several areas around the fleet, time appears to be moving slower. Varn stared at the screen. A small group of ships near the outer formation was barely moving. Their engines were active. Their crews were giving orders. But everything they did seemed delayed. Seconds inside that region were becoming minutes outside. Commander Rao spoke again through the communication channel. Admiral, the humans are not just controlling space. He paused before finishing his thought. They are controlling time around the battlefield. Varn finally understood the truth. The Empire had expected a traditional battle, but the humans were fighting in a completely different way. They were not just attacking ships. They were controlling reality itself. And the worst part was still unclear. If this was only their defense system, what would their real weapons look like? The battle above Earth had grown more strange with every passing hour. Imperial ships, once the strongest in the galaxy, floated helplessly in space. Navigation systems failed, engines refused to respond, and time itself seemed to bend in certain regions around the fleet. Yet not a single human weapon had fired. The chaos alone was enough to terrify the Imperial officers. Grand Admiral Varn watched the holographic display on his flagship's bridge. He had faced enemies before, but nothing like this. The humans were not just defending, they were controlling the battlefield itself. Suddenly, a new signal appeared on the sensors. Admiral, another object has entered the system, one officer reported, pointing to the display. It's massive, much larger than anything we've seen in orbit. Varn leaned closer, his eyes narrowing. The object was unlike any ship or station in Imperial records. It was enormous, shaped like a smooth, silver crescent, with faint glowing lines running across its surface. It hovered near the edge of the human orbital grid. Commander Rao, monitoring the object from a small fleet, spoke through the communication channel. Admiral, that ship is moving, but not like a normal vessel. It seems to anticipate our movements before we make them. Varn's jaw tightened. Explain. Rao's voice trembled slightly. Every time we try to maneuver to attack, it adjusts position before we reach it. It avoids our approach, without firing a single weapon. It's like it knows what we will do before we do it. An officer on Varn's bridge muttered, "Impossible, there's no technology in the galaxy capable of that." Yet the data confirmed it. Every scan, every attempt to target the ship, failed. Sensors couldn't detect its propulsion system in a conventional way, and its shields were invisible, yet utterly impenetrable. Dr. Owen, deep in Earth Command, observed the fleet from his control room. He was calm, almost bored. "The Empire still doesn't understand," he said to Director Hale. "They see our defenses and think it's extraordinary, but they haven't seen the full scope yet." Hale nodded, watching the Imperial fleet struggle. "Their arrogance will be their mistake. Let them try to fight us in a way they know. Our strategy is much larger than any single battle." Back on the battlefield, the mysterious ship, called the Horizon, began moving. It shifted through space without engines visible to the Imperial scanners. It twisted in ways that made the officers dizzy to look at. Massive energy fields surrounded it, not firing outward, but acting like barriers, bending space itself. An officer on Varn's flagship gasped. "Admiral, the ship is repairing itself in real time. Systems we disable regenerate instantly." Varn's face turned pale. For the first time in his life, he felt real fear. He had always trusted in Imperial technology, in fleets that could crush planets. But the Horizon was not just a ship, it was something beyond comprehension. Rao watched his own fleet helplessly as the Horizon moved closer to the Imperial line. Every adjustment the humans made seemed deliberate, like a chess master controlling an entire battlefield from one position. "Commander, report," Varn demanded. Rao's voice was low. "Admiral, it's controlling the flow of this battle. Our ships cannot position themselves effectively. Any offensive maneuver fails before it begins. I believe it is predicting our strategies before we even think of them. Another officer, pale and sweating, added, and its energy output, it's enough to power a planet. Varn clenched his fists. He had fought in hundreds of battles, faced the most advanced civilizations, yet he had never felt such helplessness. Prepare to retreat? Asked one junior officer nervously. Varn shook his head.
No.
We survive, we observe, we learn. That is our only choice. Meanwhile, Hale and Dr. Owen watched calmly. The Horizon was their most advanced creation, the culmination of decades of research. It could move between dimensions, manipulate gravity fields, and repair itself instantly. Its AI was self-evolving, capable of predicting complex strategies faster than any alien mind. And yet, it was only one piece of humanity's power. Owen turned to Hale. They still underestimate us. They see one ship and think they understand the technology. They have no idea what comes next. Hale nodded. Patience. Let them see the impossible first. The fear it will bring is far more valuable than destruction. Above Earth, the Horizon continued to glide silently, untouchable, untiring, and unstoppable. Imperial officers stared at it in disbelief. Every calculation, every tactic they had learned for centuries, failed against this single ship. For the first time, the Galactic Empire realized that the humans they had underestimated were not only powerful, they were beyond imagination. News of the strange battle near Earth traveled faster than anyone in the Galactic Empire expected. Imperial communication networks transmitted the reports across thousands of star systems. At first, the Empire tried to control the information, keeping it within their own channels.
But it was impossible to hide.
Alien civilizations that had once lived quietly under Imperial rule began noticing unusual signals and strange energy readings from the human system. Merchant ships returning from trade routes spoke of ships that vanished in space and returned far away. Explorers reported time distortions near Earth's orbit. The whispers of human power quickly spread. In a council hall on the planet Zypherion, a planet known for its scientists and engineers, leaders of nearby star systems gathered. They had once feared the Empire above all else. Now, they were uncertain. We have reports of Imperial fleets losing control near Earth, one elder said, shaking his head. They say humans can control space, even time itself. Another leader, a younger officer, looked worried. If this is true, then the Empire is no longer the strongest power in the galaxy. Humans could surpass them in years, maybe months. On the planet Thyron, a wealthy industrial civilization that supplied weapons to the Empire, leaders also debated the news. One counselor slammed his fist on the table. They're a young species. How can they have such technology? It is impossible. Yet data from deep space sensors confirmed the reports. Satellites, energy shields, and strange phenomena around Earth left no doubt. Humans were not only advanced, they were unlike anything anyone had seen. Back in the Empire's Grand Star Station, Grand Admiral Varn watched the communications reports grow. Every message arriving from the outer systems made the Council more uneasy. Admiral, an officer said nervously, other species are beginning to question the Empire's authority. Some are even preparing to defend themselves, just in case humans grow stronger. Varn frowned. Do they understand what this means? They do, sir. The rumors alone are causing fear. The Empire's dominance is now being questioned. The fear was spreading for a simple reason. Humans had done the impossible. They had a ship, the Horizon, that could move through space like nothing else. They had disabled Imperial warships without weapons. They had created systems that controlled space and time itself. And yet humans had not even fired a shot against civilian populations. That restraint made them even more terrifying. Some civilizations began secretly sending fleets to study the human system, hoping to understand the secret technology before the Empire could use it against them. Others began considering alliances with humans, seeing that their power could tip the balance of the galaxy. Even within the Empire, fear grew. Many officers began questioning long-held beliefs. Could the Empire truly control the galaxy if a single young species could challenge their fleets? Could humans, if provoked, destroy the Empire's warships faster than the Empire could respond? Commander Raoul, observing from his smaller fleet, understood the danger. He had thought humans were clever, but now it was clear they were unpredictable. They were not just clever, they were revolutionary. Raoul spoke to his officers quietly. We may have underestimated them. This is not just a threat to us, it is a warning to the entire galaxy. Other species will soon realize what humans are capable of. One officer nodded. Do you think they will attack us? Raoul shook his head. Not yet. Humans are not like us. They do not rush into war. They plan carefully. But if anyone challenges them, the galaxy could see something it has never seen before. Across the galaxy, the same message spread. Alien civilizations whispered to one another about Earth, about the young species that had already stunned the Empire, and about the ship that moved like a ghost. Some believed humans were a threat to all life under Imperial rule. Others believed humans could bring balance, even freedom, to civilizations long oppressed. But all agreed on one thing: the Galactic Empire, once seen as unstoppable, was now shocked. They had never faced a species capable of rewriting the rules of war, of challenging reality itself. On Earth, Director Hale and Dr. Owen watched the galaxy's reaction quietly. They knew the whispers and panic were natural. They had anticipated fear would spread faster than any weapon. Hale turned to Owen. They are learning the hard way that humans are different. Owen nodded. Yes. The galaxy feared the Empire because of its power. Now it fears humans because of what we can do. Above all, one truth became clear. For the first time in thousands of years, the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted. Not by conquest, not by destruction, but by imagination and technology far beyond what anyone could have imagined. And that shift had only just begun. Back on the Grand Star Station, the Galactic Empire's leaders were growing uneasy. The reports from Earth and its orbiting fleets had shaken the Council to its core. Thousands of years of unchallenged power suddenly felt fragile. Ships that had never failed now drifted helplessly. Fleets that had conquered entire star systems were unable to move as planned. The Imperial Council called an emergency meeting. The chamber was massive, filled with towering figures from the oldest and most advanced species in the galaxy. Holographic displays showed images of the Imperial fleet struggling against invisible forces near Earth. Grand Admiral Varn stood at the front. His face was pale, his usual confidence replaced by concern. Council members, Varn began, we are facing a civilization unlike any we have encountered before. Our fleets are no longer guaranteed to dominate. Earth's defenses, their technology, it surpasses anything we've ever seen. A council elder spoke up. Impossible. How can a young species develop such systems in so little time? Varn gestured to the holograms. It is not about time. They do things differently. Their ships, their satellites, their systems, they operate in ways we cannot understand. Our weapons and engines fail without contact. Our navigation cannot function. It is as if they control space itself. A scientist among the council members stepped forward. We have analyzed their fleet activity, energy emissions, and system patterns. The conclusion is shocking. The chamber fell silent. They are not just advanced, the scientist continued. They break rules that the rest of the galaxy believes are fixed. They test technologies that we would call dangerous or impossible. Varn nodded. Explain clearly. What do you mean by impossible? The scientist activated a new holographic display. It showed simulations of human ships moving, systems repairing themselves instantly, and satellites forming complex energy networks in orbit. When other civilizations develop technology, the scientist said, they follow safe paths. They improve gradually, within known limits. They avoid experiments that could fail or that might create dangerous results. Humans do not follow these limits. They test theories that other civilizations reject outright. They take risks. They explore every possibility. Another council member whispered, "That is reckless." "Yes," Varn said slowly. "Reckless, but effective." The scientist continued, "Their systems are not only powerful. They adapt. They learn. They evolve. The Horizon, their flagship, predicts enemy movements before the enemy even acts. Their orbital grids can manipulate space and time to neutralize entire fleets. And yet, they do not destroy unless necessary. They fight only to protect themselves." An elder council member shook his head. "How can a civilization so young achieve mastery of forces that took us centuries to understand?" Varn looked grim. "Because they do not fear experimentation. Where we worry about failure, humans act. Where we worry about danger, they see opportunity. That is why they are beyond us." The scientist added, "It is not luck. It is imagination. Humans think in ways no other species does. Their technology reflects their creativity, their curiosity, and their willingness to challenge limits. They see possibilities that we cannot even imagine. That is why we fail where they succeed." A younger council member, clearly shaken, whispered, "We cannot fight them if they want to resist. Even our largest fleets, they are vulnerable." Varn agreed. "It is no longer about firepower. It is about understanding a civilization that has rewritten the rules of science and warfare. If we do not learn from them, the Empire may face defeat before we can react." The council murmured in shock. For thousands of years, the Empire had ruled without challenge. Yet here they were, realizing that their greatest assumption, human weakness, was entirely wrong. Varn looked at the holograms one last time. "This is more than a threat. This is a warning. The galaxy must recognize that humans are not just powerful. They are something entirely different. And we have underestimated them for the last time." Across the chamber, other council members nodded slowly. Fear and awe mixed in their expressions. Even the most confident officers were realizing the truth. Humanity had not only caught up to the Empire. In some ways, humans had already surpassed it. The council ended the meeting quietly, each leader deep in thought. Outside, Imperial fleets waited. But the truth had already reached them. Humans were not just another civilization to conquer. Humans were unpredictable, brilliant, and capable of changing the rules of the galaxy itself. And that realization sent a ripple of fear through the Empire that no weapon could ever match. The Imperial Council had made its decision. After days of failed strategies and stunned officers, they concluded that humanity could no longer be underestimated. They could not simply observe or negotiate. They had to test the full power of their fleets against Earth. Grand Admiral Varn received the orders aboard his flagship. His face was pale but firm. "Prepare the fleet," he said. "We will show humanity the true might of the Galactic Empire." Within hours, the largest war fleet ever assembled left the Grand Star Station. Thousands of warships, each larger than the last, moved in perfect formation through space. Battlecruisers, destroyers, carriers, and weapons platforms filled every quadrant of the star system. Millions of soldiers and tens of thousands of officers manned the ships. Every weapon system was ready. Every fleet maneuver had been rehearsed 100 times. Commander Raul, leading a smaller reconnaissance fleet near Earth, watched the massive armada approach. Even he felt unease. The humans were strong, yes, but nothing in the galaxy had ever seen such numbers. If humans failed, the Empire would succeed in one overwhelming strike. But humans had plans of their own. Inside the underground command center on Earth, Director Hale studied the approaching Imperial fleet. Holographic screens displayed every ship, every weapon system, every formation. "Admiral Varn's fleet is the largest we've ever observed," Dr. Owen said calmly. "They intend to overwhelm us with sheer numbers." Hale nodded. "Numbers alone will not matter." He pressed a button, and a new display appeared. It showed a massive ring-like structure far from Earth, hidden in the outer reaches of the solar system. "This is the final piece," Hale said. "The gate. It will protect the planet and control the battlefield in ways the Empire cannot predict." The young engineers in the room exchanged excited looks. The gate was still under construction, but its power was enough to manipulate energy on a scale no alien civilization had ever seen. It could bend space, redirect massive energy fields, and even distort time around selected areas. Back in space, the Imperial fleet continued its approach. From their perspective, Earth seemed calm and unarmed. The humans' small fleet was still visible, but nothing in their formation suggested they could stop the overwhelming Empire. Grand Admiral Varn issued the order. Advance to attack formation. Prepare weapons to strike the inner system. On Earth, Hale and his team waited quietly. Sensors tracked the movement of every Imperial ship. Slowly, the humans activated the outer defense grid, a web of satellites and hidden platforms stretching across millions of kilometers. Energy fields flickered to life. Gravity fields adjusted. Space itself began to shift. The Imperial ships suddenly experienced strange effects. One cruiser slowed dramatically despite engines operating at full power. Another ship drifted sideways without propulsion, thrown off course by invisible forces. Alarms rang across the fleet. "Admiral," an officer shouted. "Our ships cannot maintain formation. Navigation systems are failing." Varn's face remained stern. "Hold course. Adjust engines manually." He realized something terrifying. The humans were not attacking with weapons, they were controlling the battlefield itself. Every maneuver the Empire attempted was countered before it could even begin. Ral's smaller fleet monitored the chaos, noting how the humans seemed to predict every Imperial move. "Their technology," Ral whispered to his officers. "It isn't just powerful, it anticipates us." The Imperial fleet's weapons fired anyway, but most energy beams and missiles dissipated in strange distortions of space. Some ships collided unintentionally as gravity fields shifted beneath them. Panic and confusion spread among the officers and crews. Director Hale remained calm. "They think they can overwhelm us with numbers," he said. "But the gate and our orbital grids will decide this battle." Dr. Owen smiled. "The Empire is about to witness the impossible." In the distance, the horizon, humanity's most advanced ship, glided silently toward the edge of the battlefield. Its energy shields glowed faintly, its systems fully operational, and its AI calculated the positions and movements of every Imperial ship. For the first time in millennia, the Empire faced an opponent it could not destroy with firepower, strategy, or intimidation. The humans were in control. And in this moment, every officer aboard the Imperial fleet realized the truth. They were not merely facing advanced technology, they were facing a civilization that had rewritten the rules of war itself. Grand Admiral Varn clenched his fists. "This is a battle unlike any other," he muttered. Above Earth, Director Hale pressed his hands together and whispered, "The galaxy is about to learn that human power is beyond imagination." The Imperial fleet had entered human space with confidence. Thousands of warships, each bristling with weapons, filled the void like a storm ready to strike. But Earth's defenses had already awakened. Invisible energy fields bent space. Gravity shifted unpredictably. Time in certain areas slowed or sped up. The Empire's largest fleet was helpless. Grand Admiral Varn gripped the edge of his command console. "What is happening to our ships?" An officer responded nervously. "Our engines are fully operational, sir, but some ships cannot move. Others drift uncontrollably. Weapon systems are malfunctioning. Shields are fluctuating." Varn's face tightened. "Impossible. We have faced the strongest civilizations, and yet this is not a battle. It is manipulation." Commander Ral watched from his smaller fleet, eyes wide. He had fought countless conflicts, yet nothing had prepared him for this. Every human satellite, every orbital platform, every system seemed linked. They were controlling the battlefield, as if it were a single machine. Suddenly, far beyond the inner planets, a massive energy signature appeared. It was the gate, humanity's most secret and powerful creation. A faint, glowing ring stretched across millions of kilometers. The airless space near the structure shimmered as if reality itself was bending. Director Hale stood in the control room, observing the approaching Imperial fleet. Beside him, Dr. Owen monitored the gate's systems. Activated, Hale said calmly. Energy surged across the hidden stations and orbital platforms. A massive field extended outward, bending light and space around Earth. Imperial ships drifted helplessly. Some appeared to move backward as if space itself were folding. Others spun uncontrollably, their engines useless against the invisible forces. A young engineer whispered, "It's controlling space.
And time.
Every ship is trapped in its own pocket of reality." Owen nodded. This is only the beginning. The Empire is about to see what humans can truly do. The Horizon, humanity's most advanced ship, moved into position at the edge of the gate's field. Its shields glowed like a pale sun. It adjusted its trajectory instantly to match the shifting space around it. Every sensor and system was in perfect synchronization with Earth's defense network. Imperial ships tried to fire. Lasers, missiles, and plasma cannons launched, but the attacks passed harmlessly through warped space. Beams bent before reaching their targets. Projectiles vanished or reappeared far away. Officers aboard the flagship shouted in disbelief. "Admiral, weapons are ineffective," one cried. Varn's voice was grim. "They are controlling reality. Every move we make is countered before we can execute it." Even the largest Imperial destroyers, armed with supercharged energy cannons, could not harm the Horizon or the Gate. Some ships experienced small distortions of time that made seconds stretch into minutes. Crews could act, but their actions produced no results. It was as if the Empire itself had lost control of its own technology. Raoul watched silently. He realized the humans were not simply defending, they were demonstrating power on a scale the galaxy had never seen. Director Hale addressed the room. "They think this is a traditional battle. It is not. It is a lesson. Let them see the consequences of underestimating humanity." Across space, Imperial officers grew fearful. The largest fleet in history was scattered. Communication channels were clogged with panic. Some ships disappeared entirely, warped to distant points. Others moved too slowly to react. The Empire's pride, built over thousands of years, was being destroyed without a single human weapon firing in aggression. Varn clenched his fists. This cannot be happening. They are not just defending, they are controlling the entire battlefield. Owen watched silently. The Empire now understands what humans can do. Not just strong ships or advanced weapons, but the ability to control forces no other civilization could dream of. Space, energy, even time, they can bend it to their will. Hale looked at the horizon and the shimmering gate field surrounding Earth. "This is only a warning," he said. "We do not seek conquest. We only seek survival. But if anyone threatens humanity, they will face the full power of human ingenuity." Grand Admiral Varn stared at the blue planet, the impossible fleet defenses, and the horizon. For the first time in his career, he felt helpless. All his strategies, all his fleets, all his centuries of experience meant nothing. Humans had changed the rules of the galaxy. They had shown that imagination, creativity, and fearlessness could surpass centuries of imperial dominance. And the Empire now knew a terrifying truth. Human technology was not just powerful, it was beyond imagination. Grand Admiral Varn stared at the blue planet below, feeling a mix of awe and fear. The Imperial fleet, the largest and strongest in history, had been rendered almost powerless without a single direct attack from Earth. Ships drifted, engines malfunctioned, and time itself seemed to bend around the horizon and the gate. The Imperial Council had convened again, this time in the highest chamber of the Grand Star Station. The leaders of countless species gathered in silence, all eyes fixed on the reports coming from Commander Raoul and the surveillance drones near Earth. One council elder spoke first. "We have faced every threat in the galaxy. Armadas, rogue civilizations, ancient technologies, yet nothing has prepared us for this. Humans have rewritten the rules." Another leader, younger and more impulsive, slammed his hand on the table. "We cannot allow a species like this to grow unchecked. They have no experience, yet they possess power beyond comprehension. If we do not act now, they will surpass us completely. Grand Admiral Varn remained quiet. He had seen the humans' abilities firsthand. He had watched fleets fail without any combat, and he had seen the horizon anticipate every move. He knew what the Council did not yet fully grasp. Humans were not only strong, they were unpredictable. Varn finally spoke, his voice steady but serious. We have underestimated them for centuries. Their technology is unlike anything we know. Attacking them with force would be suicide. The Empire's fleets cannot prevail here. Not now, not ever, unless we completely change how we fight, and even then, I doubt it would be enough. A murmur spread across the chamber. Some members shook their heads. Others looked thoughtful. The elder counselor who had spoken first nodded slowly. Then what do you propose, Admiral? Varn looked at the holographic display showing Earth and the humans' defenses. We must negotiate. We cannot conquer. We cannot destroy. We must find a way to coexist, or at least to acknowledge their power without provoking it. A younger officer spoke nervously. But if we show weakness, other civilizations might challenge us. The Empire's authority will be questioned across the galaxy. Varn's eyes hardened. Yes, and perhaps it should be. The Empire has ruled through fear for thousands of years. But humans do not respond to fear. They respond to strategy, creativity, and action. If we fail to respect them, we risk total annihilation. The Council fell silent. Data from the battlefield confirmed what Varn said. Ships remained scattered. Systems still struggled to function near the human system. The horizon and the gate controlled every aspect of space and time around the fleet. The Empire had never seen a civilization so thoroughly prepared, so advanced, yet so disciplined. Finally, the elder counselor spoke again. Very well. We will open communication channels. We will offer diplomacy. The Empire must acknowledge that humans are not to be attacked, at least not until we fully understand their capabilities. Varn nodded. We should also propose a treaty of observation. Humans can control space and time in ways we cannot. They have proven themselves worthy of respect. Let us not provoke them further. Back on Earth, Director Hale monitored the communications from the Grand Star Station. The Imperial Council had finally responded. Their message was clear. They would no longer attempt to attack. They sought dialogue and understanding. Hale turned to Dr. Owen. They have realized what we already knew. Humans are beyond their imagination, and even the Empire understands it now. Owen smiled. It took centuries of human ingenuity, creativity, and risk-taking to reach this moment. They've seen a small fraction, but it is enough. Above Earth, the horizon hovered silently, a guardian and symbol of humanity's power. The Imperial fleet, once proud and unstoppable, had withdrawn to a cautious distance. Communication channels were open, but weapons remained idle. Commander Ralph's voice came through the channel, calm but respectful. Director Hale, the Empire has decided to negotiate. They acknowledge your species' power and intelligence. They seek peace for now. Hale nodded slowly. Then let us ensure that peace lasts. But let them remember, we do not strike first. We only defend. And those who threaten humanity will face consequences beyond their understanding. Grand Admiral Varn, observing the humans' fleet, understood the lesson he would never forget. The Galactic Empire had ruled the galaxy for millennia, yet a young species, humans, had changed everything. The galaxy's future had shifted, not through war, but through imagination, courage, and technology beyond comprehension. For the first time in centuries, the Empire understood humility. And across the stars, humans had proven one undeniable truth. When underestimated, they were unstoppable. The Imperial fleet had finally withdrawn. Earth's orbital defense networks remained active, but there was no longer any immediate danger. The blue planet spun quietly in space, calm and undisturbed, while the horizon floated silently near the outer edge of the solar system, a symbol of human power. Inside the underground command center, Director Hale watched the screens carefully. Dr. Owen stood beside him, analyzing the final reports from the Imperial retreat. They have accepted the treaty, Owen said quietly. For now, the Empire will respect human space. Hale nodded, but his eyes were focused on the larger picture. It is more than just a treaty. The Empire has realized that humans are not a species to be ignored. Other civilizations will notice too. The balance of power has shifted. Outside the command center, millions of satellites and defense platforms continued their silent vigil. Every system was ready to respond in an instant, but for the first time in decades, the humans could simply watch and wait. Commander Raoul, observing the Imperial fleet from his smaller patrol group, felt relief and awe at the same time. The Empire had been a powerful force for thousands of years, and yet they had been stopped completely and decisively, without a single human strike in aggression. They underestimate us because we are young, Raoul said to his officers. But they will never make that mistake again. Not now. Not ever. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the news spread like wildfire. Alien civilizations, long under the shadow of the Empire, whispered about Earth, about humans, and about the strange ship called the Horizon. For centuries, these civilizations had lived in fear, trading only under Imperial law, paying taxes, and submitting to the Empire's authority. Now, they had seen proof that humans were different. On the industrial world of Thyron, a council member spoke quietly to his peers. The humans, they are beyond our understanding. The Empire itself could not defeat them. Perhaps it is time we rethink our alliances. On the scholarly world of Zypherion, scientists examined the strange energy readings from Earth's orbital grids. This technology, it is not just advanced, one said. It is revolutionary. They manipulate space, time, and energy in ways no other civilization has ever imagined. Even within the Empire, fear and respect had taken root. Grand Admiral Varn stood on his flagship, observing the retreating fleet. He knew the Council's decision to seek diplomacy was wise. Any attack would have been catastrophic. He had seen the Horizon move, seen the gate manipulate space and time, and he understood one undeniable truth. Humanity was not just a threat, it was a force that could not be ignored. But humans had not acted out of aggression. They had only defended their world, showing restraint, strategy, and creativity. That restraint made their power even more terrifying. Director Hale turned to Dr. Owen. "We have proven one thing today," he said. "The galaxy will no longer underestimate humans. But the challenge ahead is to maintain peace while ensuring our survival." Owen nodded. "The Empire will adapt. Other civilizations will try to study us, maybe even challenge us. But humans will always have one advantage: imagination. Our ability to think beyond limits is stronger than any fleet or weapon." Raoul's fleet returned to standard patrols, and the human defense network slowly powered down non-essential systems. Still, every sensor and orbital station remained ready. Earth had changed. It was no longer a small planet in a vast galaxy. It had become a beacon of human ingenuity and power. The Empire's retreat marked the beginning of a new era. Alien civilizations that once bowed in fear now began to wonder, could humans be allies, or would they become a power to rival all others? On Earth, people went about their lives, unaware of the war they had survived. Cities lit up the night side of the planet, unaware that their world had just forced the galaxy's most powerful empire to pause. Yet in secret, humanity had grown stronger. Their technology, their networks, their imagination had protected them and reshaped the future. Hale smiled, watching the horizon as it glided silently in space. "They may not understand us yet," he said. "But one day, every corner of the galaxy will know that humans are not just survivors, we are the future." Raoul added quietly, "The Empire thought they were teaching us a lesson. They do not realize they have learned one themselves. Humanity cannot be controlled. Humanity cannot be ignored. And humanity will always rise." Far above, the horizon moved through space like a silent guardian, while Earth's orbital grids shimmered faintly, a subtle reminder to the galaxy that the humans below were ready for whatever came next. The galaxy had seen humans at their most cunning, most imaginative, and most determined. And one thing was clear: the era of underestimating humanity was over. A new chapter had begun. The Galactic Empire had been shocked. The galaxy had been warned. And humanity had just begun.